edition of the Hispanic Patriot, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret and undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines here in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And now without further ado, here are the hosts of the Hispanic Patriot, Nick Razzo and Hugo Chavez. Ray, give it up for Nick and Hugo.
Hello, the boomer and the millennial. Here we are.
You know it.
Again. And welcome to another edition of the Hispanic Patriot podcast, our weekly event. Hopefully soon we'll be climbing the ladder and being more frequent. But before we get started with the show, please take a moment to click on the like button and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support will help our show grow, and if you are so inclined, you can contribute financially to our cause on our website displayed during our broadcast. Every donation, large or small, is sincerely appreciated and helps us deliver our important message. So we thank you in advance for your cooperation and your generosity. Tonight, we have an important guest on the show. Gabe Evans. He is a candidate for CD8 in Colorado. We will get to Gabe in just a few minutes. He's in our back stage right now, getting ready for the show. So we begin with our continuing coverage of President Trump's kangaroo court sham trial in New York City tonight. If you've been paying attention, or if you've been living under a rock, you don't know, but if you have been watching the news, you know that the mockery of a trial against former President Trump has now concluded, and the case is now in the hands of the New York jury. We will see. Hopefully they will be fair. Now, to say that the jury instructions from the corrupt Judge Merchan was a total fiasco would be a complete understatement. We won't get into too much detail tonight due to our guests, but suffice to say that the judge did everything except close the case for the prosecution when he gave the jury their instructions. Several legal scholars have already commented on the rather unusual instructions given. They were not your standard jury instructions. The judge did his best to create a roadmap for the jurors in order that he could manipulate a guilty verdict. That's how dirty this guy is. A complete sham and a travesty of justice. So this afternoon, the jury sent a message to the judge asking, it's about 4 hours into their deliberations, sent a message to the judge asking if they could review the testimony regarding the alleged meeting between Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, the gloat, as he has been titled, that's greatest liar of all time, and Mr. Pecker from the National Enquirer. Now, the purpose is to try to arrive at a conclusion for something that never happened, which was Trump giving Cohen a directive to break the law. That's what Cohen lied on the stand about. The prediction from most people is that the jury will come back with a verdict by Friday afternoon. Why? Because they want their weekend, probably. But Biden and the corrupt media mob is already salivating at the thought of referring to the president as a convicted felon. Biden has already scheduled a press conference for when the verdict is in. He is a despicable man. And of course, all the sycophants with the media will all eat it up and regurgitate it ad infinitum. Prepare for that if that happens. The only hope is that there is at least one juror who will not play along. And that would be a nightmare scenario for Biden, a hung jury. So we will be on jury watch, and as I'm sure the rest of the country will be as well. We haven't had anything like this since the OJ verdict back in the 90s. Suffice to say that a prosecution of a president, a former president, has never happened in the history of the United States. That's how despicable these leftist, Marxist people have become. They masquerade as Democrats. They are not Democrats. These people are far left loons that want to destroy this country, and they want to hold on to their power. So President Trump needs all of our prayers. Pray there is one juror at least that has the courage and character to not participate in this stain upon our nation. And in addition to that, there's breaking news today that indicates there may be 2 more states that jump into the get Trump mode by indicting him yet again for alleged election interference. Those states are Arizona and Michigan. So don't tell me this isn't all orchestrated by Biden and his Democrat henchmen. Why? Because he can't beat Trump in a straight up election. He knows that. Guess what, Joe? You won't beat him even with all the decks stacked in your favor by the corrupt media. Now, more on this later. As I mentioned, we have a guest, so we're going to switch now our attention to our guest this evening, Mr. Gabe Evans, candidate for Congressional District 8. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, what a guy he is. Gabe Evans, conservative state representative, candidate for Congress who spent his entire life running towards challenge. So Gabe spent 12 years serving his country in the U.S. Army and the Colorado Army National Guard as a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Now, isn't that something? And company commander. He's completed a combat deployment to the Middle East and responded to forest fires and search and rescue all throughout the state. Gabe has also spent 10 years as an Arvada police officer, where he witnessed firsthand the consequences of Colorado Democrats' soft-on-crime policies. He and his wife operate a family farm in southern Weld County. As the parent of 2 boys named Bruce and Sammy, they are heavily involved with homeschooling and education choice. In his free time, Gabe teaches a concealed carry class in the 8th Congressional District. Grandson of Mexican immigrants, Gabe is a Colorado native who truly understands the beauty and responsibility of the American dream. Preserving that sacred ideal for his community and children is why he serves in the military, raised his hand for the law enforcement career path, and ran for Colorado State House in 2022. Now Gabe is running towards his next challenge, taking his conservative vision to Congress to make Colorado the best possible place to live and raise a family. That's exactly why me and my wife moved here, Gabe. We appreciate that now.
Well, welcome, Gabe, to the Hispanic Patriot podcast. Now we are a fledgling podcast, but we hope to be big someday. We're doing our part to try to get the message out to the Hispanic community in particular, but of course to all conservatives in the state. And we want to welcome you aboard the show tonight. We know that
welcome.
You're running in a very.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, other than what was in the bio, if you want to just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much heard it all right there, right? Born and raised in Colorado. My folks decided to homeschool me all 12 years. So, when folks ask me, Gabe, you're going to go to Washington, D.C. Seems like we send good people there, and 2 years later or 4 years later, they get eaten by the swamp and they come back weird. Well, my comeback is, you know the risk, but I've been standing on my own 2 feet and being, a little bit different from everybody else since 1991 when my parents decided to homeschool me. So homeschooling was legalized in Colorado in 1988. Nobody had heard of a homeschooler in 1991. So, like I said, I've been standing on my own 2 feet, doing what I believe in ever since then. And, Congress is not going to change me. That's my commitment.
Well, as a product of public school myself, I got to say, thank God you were homeschooled, man. I'll say that right now.
So you've been serving in the state legislature for your district, is that correct?
Yeah, so I currently represent House District 48 in the state legislature. It's Adams and Weld County. I tell the Adams County side a lot that quite often I end up being the token Republican, so I got to cover down on the whole county to make sure that folks are hearing the alternative viewpoints about why it is that crime is so ridiculously out of control here in Colorado, why it is that our cost of living is so out of control, and going back to the education thing, why it is that 60% of our kids can't pass their 3rd grade reading test in 3rd grade, and 70% of them can't pass their 8th grade math test once they're in 8th grade. I feel like there's a lot of leftist policies that have failed us there, and it's my job as one of the token Republicans for Adams County to make sure that I'm using my position to give that alternative viewpoint to the voters so that they can make an informed decision about, who's making their policies, and are they going to continue to vote for policies that make things more expensive for them, or whether or not it's time for a change.
So tell us a little bit about the family name background. Now you're Hispanic, so Evans is not quite Hispanic. So what's the situation there?
Yeah, so my mom's first generation American, Rebecca Chavez, and
Okay.
in the 80s, when I was born, you assimilated into the culture. So she's traditional. She took my dad's last name, and so I hung out with the Chavez side of the family all the time. But it wasn't until a few years ago that it turned into all of this identity politics to where you had to have a Hispanic last name to be Hispanic. So
Yep.
I've always I've always been Gabe Evans. We've had a lot of conversations about, do I want to add the Chavez part, for political purposes? And I mean, it's the family name, so I could, but I've never really been Gabe, Evans Chavez or Chavez Evans. So
Well, and
I
to
just,
be honest, with our naming culture as it is, our culture is very open in that where you can kind of pick and choose how you want to present yourself. And in America, it makes a lot of sense that you want to present your father's name. I mean, there's no reason to, add that flair to it if it's not the culture that we're in right now. Like they say, we're in Rome, do as the Romans. So it's like, hey, being pretty Roman over here, I'd say.
Yeah, we might be related.
Yeah, look at that. So that's why you don't want to put it in there. You don't want to be associated with this guy, huh? No, we really
well,
appreciate you, man. We've the Hispanic Patriots, very, very important to us. That's what our name represents. So all Hispanics, all Patriots. You don't have to be together. You could be together all you want. That's, I think, one of the messages that we bring here is that we're here to bring everyone together, no matter who they are. That's what America is.
So is
yeah,
your mom's heritage from Spain or from Mexico?
from Chihuahua, Mexico.
Chihuahua.
Hey,
Yeah. Oh, that's my mother-in-law's. That's where my mother-in-law's from.
very nice.
Cuauhtemoc,
Yeah.
Cuauhtemoc, Chihuahua is where my grandfather, my abuelito, is from.
There you
Beautiful.
go.
Very beautiful.
But my wife's maiden name is Allman. So,
Uh,
and fun fact, she is distantly related to the Allman brothers.
No
That-
kidding.
look at
yeah,
that.
she's a very distant cousin, but her dad was Norwegian, so that's where the Allman name came from, and so we jokingly call her the Mexican Viking.
That's beautiful. That's what our culture is about, man. We bring everyone together. Everybody's interested in coming here. We'll probably have a question on immigration or two, but I think that's one thing that's very important to us is the fact that wherever we come from, we have this great tradition that we have. And Gabe, you're a very great example of that tradition. Amazing. Military, firefighter, police officer, and congressman. That is such a traditional Republican, small R Republican, very ancient even role.
He's a man of
Tradition.
service,
Yeah, you are a man
military,
of
law
service.
enforcement, and government. Look at
Look
that,
at that.
the trifecta.
Yeah,
We
man.
thank you for all of that, Gabe. I think
Absolutely.
you're a great candidate from what I've seen. So now we want to lovingly put you into the Hispanic Patriot meat grinder, and we're gonna give you a few questions that I'm sure you'll be able to handle with no problems. So let me start with this one. What three principles form the core of your political beliefs?
Yeah, so kind of like we've talked about, right? My mom was conservative, my dad was conservative. That's how they raised me. So the things that make me who I am, first and foremost, is just my family upbringing and my faith. That's what guides me. After that, whenever I'm doing political stuff, it's the Constitution. Same Constitution I swore 3 oaths to uphold and defend, payable up to and including with my life. And then after that, it's listening to the voters in my district. The same way that I listened to them when I was a police officer out on the streets. They'd call me up. They'd say, I got a problem. Nobody ever calls you when you're a cop to tell you they're having a great day. They call to tell you they're having a horrible day. And it's up to you to try to figure out how to fix that problem. So just being able to put those same listening skills to work that I did as a police officer. One of the statistics that I'm most proud of during my 10-year career in law enforcement is I arrested tons of bad guys. I was usually the top third of my shift for being able to go out and find and arrest bad guys. But I only ever got into 2 fights. And it's because I can listen to folks. I can have that conversation with folks. And, even somebody that I know I'm going to put in handcuffs and take them to jail, I can usually take the extra time to have that conversation with them and be like, look, man, there is no way out of this. You're going to come with me tonight. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. You do it the easy way, I'll let you listen to your favorite radio station while we drive on down to the jail. You do it the hard way, then there's going to be more charges, and I'm going to be grouchy, and all my cops are going to be grouchy. How do we work together on this one? I still get my way, but like I said, I only ever got in 2 fights because I was able to listen to folks, even folks that I was arresting. And so in between my family, my tradition, my faith guiding me, knowing the Constitution, because I've sworn 3 oaths to defend that, and I think it's important to know what it is that you swore to defend, and then just being able to listen to folks, listen to the voters, listen to the people that you are supposed to be representing. Those are the 3 things that guide me.
That's great. By the way, my brother-in-law is a retired state trooper. He was in there 30 years.
Good for him.
So he moved to Florida, or bought a place in Florida. So he's down in the free state of Florida right now.
Unfortunately, my family isn't so lucky. My cousin was a police sheriff in Chicago, but he got out before the big riots, the Floyd riots and all of that. So thank God for that. He's now managing our family farm. So
nice.
I don't know, it's good. Now you'd manage a farm as well. I have a question or two about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Take it away, Nick.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, as a military veteran, what military values do you think are lacking in our Congress today, or even our society in general today? And do you think the civilian sector can benefit from experience, those with your kind of experience, who have experience with those values? And do you think they'll bring those values with you to Congress?
Yeah, so many thoughts there. We could talk all night about this one.
Love it.
My last assignment in the military, I commanded an aviation outfit out of Buckley Air Force Base out in Aurora. And so when you talk about military aviation, especially when Top Gun 2 has just come out, everybody thinks about, Tom Cruise, Maverick, out flying aircraft. Well, for a Black Hawk helicopter, it's 15 maintenance hours for every 1 flight out.
Yep.
So as the commander of that outfit, I actually spend most of my time focused on the logistics of maintenance and the logistics of aircrew training. Because even in a combat situation, about 80% of aircraft losses happen not because of getting shot down by the enemy. Our defensive systems work pretty well. When we lose aircraft overseas, they go down as a result of pilot error. And so being able to manage, train, and mitigate all of that human error that exists in a complex, dynamic, flying aircraft low to the ground into and out of dangerous situations, all of that ultimately boils down to leadership. One of the questions that I would always ask my cops is, what's the difference between a leader and a role model? And some of them would get it right away, but my personal distinction between the two is a role model is somebody that you look up to, but they don't necessarily bring up everybody else around them. A leader is somebody that makes everybody else around them perform better, achieve better, learn better. A leader brings everyone else up around them. And so as an aviation commander, that was my ultimate goal. How do I make sure that my pilots, my crew chiefs, my mechanics, they are all improving and they're getting better in their performance so that when I move on, I leave the unit, the organization better than I found it. And I've empowered these folks to improve themselves, to become a better pilot, better mechanic, better whatever it is that they do. And so I think, as part of, how do you manage human beings? How do you lead them? How do you motivate them? How do you inspire them? There would always be conversations about who does it better, big businesses like Google or Apple or the military. And, quite honestly, I think a lot of the research points to the military does it better. The military shows how to have that leadership, the military definition of leadership, how does it go now? Leadership is the art of influencing people by providing purpose, motivation, and direction in order to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. That's what I always tried to do as a leader. That's what I always tried to do in command positions in military and law enforcement. That's what I try to do as a state representative, because at the end of the day, I'm working for the voters in my district. And so in that context, the organization that I'm trying to improve is the state of Colorado. That is the organization to which I have been elected as a representative to try to lead it. And that's the same sort of thing that I want to try to do in Congress. How do I leave this country better? How do I take that Army value of improving the organization, which in this case is the United States House of Representatives? How do I improve that organization? How do I build the relationships so that, like I tell everybody, nobody wants another spineless politician. You speak truth, you speak the truth firmly, you speak the truth honestly. So I know those things that I will never compromise on. But at the same time, same way I did as a cop, the same way I did as a cop when I arrested people for 10 years and only ever got in 2 fights. I can still find common ground to collaborate with people without compromising my principles. You're going to jail. No compromise there. But let's collaborate so that I don't have to fight you on it. Taking that leadership, taking that ability to improve the organization, have those conversations, to never compromise, but be able to collaborate with folks, to be able to solve the everyday dinner table issues that are facing Coloradans: crime, cost of living, education, border security, those things. That's what I want to do. Those are those military values that I think are oh so important and are lacking in today's Congress.
I think that's a fantastic answer, Gabe.
That's perfectly stated. It's kind of a sports analogy too. They talk about the star on the team, and because some people could be stars, but they're not good leaders. And the good leader is the one that brings up the other players around them and makes them better. And it's not all about themselves. They're able to make that connection and make the other. That's what makes a good team. Is a good leader, and he elevates the others so that they can all succeed together.
Yep, with humility and grace.
So, talk about CD8. Now, CD8 is a new district, so this is the first re-election, I guess you would say, of that district. I remember getting involved in originally when CD8 came about 2 years ago, and I was kind of disappointed in the results and how the campaigns were run in that district, because I felt very strongly. We did an event up in Commerce City, which is like 50 some odd percent Hispanic, and we did a parade. We spoke to a lot of people up there, and a lot of the people there were very open to Republicans. A lot of people told us, well, don't go up there. There's a bunch of Hispanics up there. They're not going to like you. And just like in Pueblo, the opposite was true, because they were open to Hispanics who were Republicans, ready to speak on the issues and what they were going to be able to accomplish on behalf of the community. So, tell us a little bit about your experience in CD8. What made you jump into CD8 race to begin with?
Yeah, so the 8th Congressional District, it's all of the big cities in Adams County: Commerce City, Northland, Thornton, Fed Heights, Brighton, the Adams County side of Westminster. And then it goes up into Weld County, up to Greeley, so along the I-25 and the Highway 85 corridor. And then it's got a little piece of Larimer County in it, Berthoud and the surrounding area. So that combination makes Colorado's 8th Congressional District one of the most competitive seats in the nation. Yadira Caraveo, the Democrat that's in that seat right now, she is the low vote getter out of every Democrat in Congress in the 2022 cycle. Nobody got a smaller percentage of the vote than Yadira did. It's an incredibly competitive seat. And so, we've talked about my background, right? I'm very proud of my Hispanic heritage. My uncle tells me all the time, he says, Gabe, you remember, so my grandfather, my abuelito, he earned his citizenship in World War II, along with 2 Purple Hearts. He carried German shrapnel in his back till the day that he died, because it was too close to his spine. They couldn't get it out. And so my uncle tells me all the time, he says, Gabe, you remember that the citizenship for the Chavez family was paid for in blood. So on the campaign trail, you remember that you're an American first, because that is something precious. But after that, you are totally proud of your Hispanic descent. You just remember that you're an American first, of Hispanic descent second. So I'm very proud of that. And that's a story that resonates with the Hispanics in this district. It's a 40% Hispanic district. But I was a police officer in Adams County. City of Arvada goes into Adams County. And so I am totally comfortable to go into Commerce City, to go into Thornton, to go into Fed Heights, and I can have a conversation with anybody. Again, going back to that law enforcement skill set, I can talk to anybody. For 10 years, I was arresting people, only ever got into 2 fights. I can have these conversations with people and just talk about, is your life better or worse? Are things more affordable or less affordable? Is crime better or worse? Do you feel like your kids are getting a better education or a worse education? Do you think like your taxpayer dollars are being used wisely? And, I have my opinions on all of those, which is that Bidenomics has been a complete failure, and Biden's rubber stamps in Congress, like Yadira Caraveo, have done nothing other than to contribute to the decline of our economy, the increase in the cost of living, the border crisis, the fentanyl crisis, the crime crisis. I can have those conversations and I can say, look, I want to fix that because my story is your story. I didn't grow up rich. My mom's first generation American. She thought she was going to grow up in a dirt floor hut in Juarez, across the river from El Paso. But because of the American dream, she was able to move up in the world. She got a job as a flight attendant, one of the most glamorous jobs in the 70s. She got a job as a flight attendant. That's what brought her to Colorado. She was able to pass on that generational wealth and that American dream to me. That story resonates with Hispanics, with non-Hispanics. That resonates with most folks in the 8th Congressional District because it is the story of the American dream. That's what I want to preserve and protect for them. And that's why I jumped into this race, is because we need to flip this seat. What I saw the last 2 years down at the state capitol of Democrats having complete control in the state and doing nothing but pass leftist socialist policies is doing nothing but hurt the everyday working class American in Colorado. And until these folks start to pay a price at the ballot box, they're never going to behave responsibly. They're never going to act accountably. And so as a good soldier, I know the only thing that we can do is make them lose some seats. And so I'm going to rip CD8 away from them, kicking and screaming, so that they know that their policies are failing Americans, they're failing Coloradans, they're failing the voters in the 8th Congressional District. Republicans and conservatives have a better way that puts more food on the table, more money in the pocket, better education for kids. And that's what I stand for. That's why I jumped into the 8th Congressional District. Exact same motivation that led me into the military and law enforcement: serve my community, make life better for everyday folks, so that ultimately, like Ronald Reagan said, I can pass that freedom and American prosperity on to my kids.
So you're in the primary right now, right? Are there other who are the other candidates right now in that race, or are you alone now?
So there is one candidate left. There were originally 4. 2 of them have since dropped out and endorsed me. Joe Andujo dropped out and he threw his support behind me. Scott James, Weld County Commissioner, also dropped out, threw his support behind me. One opponent left. I try my absolute best to follow Reagan's 11th commandment. So all I'll really say there is I was honored to get 62% of the vote from the Republican grassroots through the assembly process. I went through assembly, and by over a 2-to-1 margin, they supported me. I had 50 volunteers out collecting signatures, petitions from folks that don't normally go to assembly, because I want to make sure that we build a strong organization and get my name out there as soon as possible. We needed 1,500 signatures. We collected about 2,200 signatures with like a 95% volunteer core of folks. So folks are excited about this race. Folks have thrown their support behind me. I got the support of most of the mayors in the district, county commissioners in Weld, most of the local officials, and again, that's 62% through the assembly process.
That's great.
Very nice.
Yeah, so you got the primary coming up on the 25th of June. So that's going to be the day when you find out. But I believe you're a strong candidate from what I've seen. Now, give me a quick rundown. Have you guys had any forums or debates between you and the other candidates so far, or is it
Are
just
those coming up, or?
Yeah, so we've had one already. The opponent who's in the race right now, he only moved to the district in January. So back in January, the Republican Women of Weld hosted a debate between, at that time, the 3 candidates who were in, myself, Joe Andujo, and Scott James. And so I was honored to win that straw poll by basically the same margin that I just told you through assembly. I got about 2/3 of the votes in that straw poll. Those 2 folks that I debated in January, Joe Andujo and Scott James, again, they have since dropped out, thrown their support behind me. The one remaining candidate, he hadn't even entered the race in January because he was still moving to the district from Colorado Springs. So this will be the first debate this June down at the Grizzly Rose, again, hosted by the Republican Women of Weld. This will be the first time I've debated him.
Is that
Very nice.
the one they call the Rumble?
Yep, Republican Rumble, high noon, June 1st, Grizzly Rose.
Very nice.
So that's this
How fun.
Saturday.
Yep.
Okay,
Why not?
great.
Mark it on your calendars,
I
folks.
think I'm gonna definitely have to be there. I was one. I think 2 years ago I was at one where they had several of the candidates, and it was quite entertaining, and it was well done. The ladies from Well do a good job of putting together those forums, so I'm excited to hear that. So I'll probably be seeing you Saturday.
I look
Uh,
forward to it.
Very nice.
so Nick, you got another question before we get?
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned before, your career path just intrigues me to no end because to me it's so quintessentially Republican, and I mean that little R, big R. I think a lot of people forget about our country's roots in the Roman Republic, and also the way that we bring people together. As everybody, like we said many times before, is different, but they bring their own unique set of skills, just like with the Roman Republic and with the American Republic. So I wanted to ask you, with your very unique background, is what do you think in terms of the Republican Party? Because this is something in Hispanic community, and I'd say more in general, that there's a need to get over the stigma of being a Republican. All of the bad media lies, we can say, that have been made about us throughout many decades. What do you think the Republican Party brings in terms of those historic little r republic traditions, and how do you think the Republican Party brings those Republican traditions to our American government, much differently than the Democrats, and comparatively so?
Yeah. So again, having spent 2 years down at the state capitol fighting the out of control Democrats, and I mean, let's be honest, we have more avowed card carrying members of the Democrats, Socialists of America, to elected House positions in the state legislature in Colorado. We have more elected socialists than any state in the nation other than New York. So I've been fighting these straight up Marxist ideas. And so what I can tell you the difference between conservatives, Republicans, and the folks on the left is that the folks on the left want to control every aspect of your life because they think they know how to do it better. What conservatives think is that folks should have the freedom and the liberty to be able to achieve their American dream without being micromanaged by the government. And it is that ability to lead your life with freedom, with liberty, as you see fit, to best achieve your version of the American dream, not the one that's dictated to you by the state, not the one that's imposed on you through taxes and fees and regulation, your best version of the American dream. Because of the freedom and liberty that this country gives to the individual, that is what we offer. And the results of that are that we are the freest, most innovative society in the world. The reason that we have the prosperity and the freedom and the security in America is because the individual can flourish. And because individual talents and skills and abilities, people are able to hone those and to run in directions that they're passionate about. And as a result of that, individuals just end up achieving more in a free society than they do in a heavy-handed, top-down society that the left envisions. And so I guess to sum it all up, as a police officer, what I would tell my cops all the time is, look, guys, if somebody calls us, if they have a problem, we're there. We're customer service oriented. We believe in, like the Declaration of Independence says, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Well, as cops, my job is to protect people's lives from those who would do them harm. It is to protect their liberty, and it is to protect their property so that they have the wherewithal and the means to lead their lives as they see fit. So in those areas, we are going to go out, we're going to do our jobs to the absolute best of our abilities. But other than that, we are supposed to be transparent to the citizens in the community that we serve. We're not supposed to be out there bothering them, harassing them. We protect their life, liberty, and their property, their pursuit of happiness. And other than that, we're transparent. That is what freedom is. That is what the liberty is. That is what the ordered society that conservatives and Republicans offer. And it's that ordered, individual-focused society that allows people to achieve their best individual self and ultimately be able to accomplish the American dream for themselves as they see fit, not as is dictated to them by the heavy hand of government.
That is the basis of our civilization right there. Beautiful.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think we need about 10 more Gabes in the Congress. So
I'm pumping them out.
I'm gonna fire a couple of yes or no questions at you and see where you stand on a couple of issues that I think are important. One of them is the inevitable one about the Department of Education, and I'm talking about the one in Washington, D.C. Would you be in favor of abolishing the Department of Education, or at very least severely curtailing the power that they have?
So I'm going to go with that's not. I can't give you a yes no there. I can give you a very short answer.
Okay.
Please.
So Edmund Burke, one of the fathers of conservative thought in England in the 1700s. Edmund Burke said that the failings of your country should be treated like the wounds of your father. You got to lovingly treat them, and you got to have slower, basically slower change. You have too rapid change, you end up like the French Revolution. Everything just goes haywire. So you've heard my background. Homeschooled. My kids have been homeschooled, public schooled, charter schooled. We need to promote educational choice at every opportunity. Parents are the best people to be able to select an education for their kids, and then to be able to see what their kids are being taught. So I think that we need to focus completely on how do we put parents back in the driver's seat to ensure that they're the ones, again, going back to that individual liberty, they're the ones who are best positioned to pick their kids' education and then follow up to make sure that their kids are actually receiving an appropriate education.
Okay.
Very nice. Very nice.
What about, would you support a national photo ID for all U.S. citizens?
Yeah, we have to have confidence in our elections. And so, granted, there's lots of different ways these days to be able to identify yourself, but yeah, there has to be some sort of way to make sure that one citizen, one vote.
We are the only major industrialized nation on the planet that does not have photo voter ID. In my home country of Peru, you have to have a photo ID. In fact, if you do not vote on election day, and everybody votes on the same day, there's no mail-in ballots or anything else. If you do not vote on election day, you get fined. Now, I'm not in favor of going that route necessarily, but I'm just pointing that out to show that third world countries have better voter registration and voter ID processes than the United States of America, and I think that's a travesty. So I'm personally in favor of a national voter photo ID. No, this nonsense that says, it's racist to require minorities to get an ID. What you're telling me is you think minorities are too stupid to go get a voter ID or a photo ID. And that's
you got to have an ID to buy alcohol. You got to have an ID to get on an airplane. You can go.
Car.
Yeah, you got to have an ID. You go through the laundry list of everything in society that you have to have an ID for, but not to vote.
Yep. Well,
I
think we all know we all know the reasons behind all of that, but that's
beyond the scope right now.
So then one last one that I think is on the minds of a lot of people, especially that we've been under, I should say, verbal assault from despot nations in the United Nations. What are your thoughts on the United Nations? Are you?
That's funny. So in college, my degree is in government with an emphasis in strategic intelligence. You can make all the jokes you want, but yes, I thought I was going to go work for a 3-letter intelligence agency in the intelligence community. So what one of our professors just harped on constantly was the international community more or less exists in a state of anarchy. And the United Nations has no power absent the big countries in the world choosing to give it power or not give it power. And I am adamantly opposed to giving any power to the United Nations over the United States. We are the freest, greatest country in the history of humanity, and we have absolutely zero reason to surrender that to the United Nations so that it can be manipulated by folks like Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and many of the other countries out there that have no love lost for the United States. And again, I spent 12 years in the Army. I've been to these parts of the world. You got people all around the world that chant death to America. I'm sorry, that's not just a viewpoint that you get to express and claim, oh, this is just a neutral viewpoint. I swore 3 oaths to stand up for my country and die for my country and state and community if needed. And so any forum that tries to say that somebody chanting death to America is the exact same as, somebody that says pro-America things, no, does not fly in my book. Absolutely not. The United Nations we should not surrender any sovereignty at all whatsoever to the United Nations, period, hard stop, the end.
Well, I would go one step further. I would kick the United Nations out of the U.S. Because we fund most of it. And
the United Nations is nothing if we stop giving them money in a building.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's just and going back to your comment about the death to America, we've got idiots chanting that here on the homeland, and that just boils my blood.
I about lost it. You guys probably know my I'm an Army guy, so I speak fluent sarcasm, right? My good friend, not a friend, Timmy Hamas Hernandez down at the state capitol.
Yeah.
So when we're debating bills as the full House of, State House of Representatives, the majority party gets to chair that meeting. And so they put Timmy Hamas Hernandez up on the platform, the dais, where the chair of the committee sits and presides over the meeting. And I took a picture of that and I showed it to all of my military buddies. And I'm like, aren't you glad that we spent the last 2 years at war with terrorists who chant death to America? And now all of a sudden we have literally a Hamas sympathizer, a known terrorist organization sympathizer who is now running the Colorado State House of Representatives.
And you want to know a little secret? I'm in his district.
Oh.
Yeah.
We got to move you to Weld County, Hugo.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're trying to change that. Hopefully he's going to get booted out this primary. But
that infuriated me to literally have a known terrorist sympathizer presiding over the elected Colorado State House of Representatives.
Because know what cost our military and your boys to keep those kind of ideas at bay from our country. Like as a kid, I watched 9/11 happen. They reeled the TVs in and had us watch that, and that colored everything. It's like, that we're not safe unless we have a wall of a good men. Like the thin red line, like they talk about. So, but you've been on the thin red and blue line on that regard. So it's just, that must have boiled your blood, man. Sorry about that. Hopefully. So
by the way, I'm Air Force. I'm Air Force.
Look at that.
Yeah, I know.
My fighter wing flew sorties over Vietnam in the early 70s. So, it just chaps me when I see this in our own government and in
communist
our own homeland. I read a piece yesterday from this idiot Muslim that's in Michigan that said that we're going to take over all of American government, and it just all I could do was hold my tongue because
you got to beat Hispanics to it, man. Sorry.
All right, one final question before we let you go. Go ahead, Nick. I'll let you have the last word.
Absolutely. Well, Gabe, I think it's safe to say you're a pretty young guy. I think that's pretty safe to say. But do you think there's a lack of young voices or officials in our state and local government or even the U.S. Congress? And what do you think that younger men like us have to offer our country in terms of perspective, experience, and passion? And do you think there's anything lacking right now if there is a lack of young voices, especially those interested to go into politics?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I kid people sometimes when they say, Gabe, you're young. And I say, yeah, but with 10 years in law enforcement, another 12 years in the military, if I ever want to not be a millennial, I feel like, I
You've earned it.
The gray hairs and the battle scars to prove that I do have some legitimate miles under the belt here and some legitimate world experience, real world experience. But no, I think young people have an awful lot to offer. Again, going all the way back, to my faith. It says, in Timothy, let no man despise your youth, but instead set an example for the believers in life, love, faith, and purity. And so I think that what youth brings, especially youth tempered with experience, is they bring that passion, they bring that energy, because there's big problems in the United States. There's big problems in Colorado. There's big tasks to be accomplished. And so I'm fortunate to, my dad always tells me, youth is wasted on the young. If I had the energy that I had when I was younger, but the wisdom of being older, what an unstoppable human being I would be. And so that's, I think that's what youth brings, is that energy, that enthusiasm, that dynamism to actually be able to be, hopefully balanced and reasoned and tempered enough to have good solutions, but also just be slightly crazy enough to be like, yes, we can. Si se puede, right? Yes, we can fix these problems. We can solve these issues that are plaguing Coloradans. High crime, high cost of living, a wide open border, sanctuary state policies that are causing all sorts of issues in our community. The Department of Motor Vehicles in Denver couldn't even stay open 40 hours a week, for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
We're about to collapse our second largest hospital system in the state because of tens of millions of dollars of uncompensated care to illegal immigrants. So I like to think that I hit that sweet spot in between 10 years in law enforcement, another 12 years in the military, 2 years down at the state capitol, being married, having kids, having a small family farm, working as a concealed carry firearms instructor. I have the experience to be able to have reasonable, thoughtful, well-rounded solutions, but I still have the youth and the energy to be crazy enough to think that I can go fix this. Si se puede. I can go out. We can go out and solve these problems and pass on freedom and liberty and the American dream to the next generation.
I love it.
I heard that nonsense at the Capitol that they have banned the word illegal down there.
Oh, that was me. No, that was
really?
No, that was me. I was the one that forced that confrontation. They had a grant program to take taxpayer dollars and give it to migrants. Migrants that have spent less than 1 year in the United States that are not eligible for other forms of federal aid, aka somebody that's here illegally.
Yeah.
And I went down and I said, no, this is wrong. This is not why, my grandfather, my abuelito, fought in World War II, earned his citizenship, so that then folks who didn't pay in blood can suddenly break the law coming here, cut the line, and have the red carpet rolled out for him, so that my grandfather's passed on, but that other folks that did it the right way have to now pay for those folks who didn't do it the right way and who cut in line. This is wrong. We should not be using taxpayer dollars to fund illegal immigrants when there are so many other problems that are facing Americans and Coloradans. And that was the part where they said, oh, you can't say illegal immigrant, Gabe. And then I anticipated they would say that. So then I asked them, are you planning to censor the press? Because I'm actually reading from, I forget if it was a Denver Post or a Colorado Politics article.
Hey, look at that.
And I was like, because that's what's actually printed here in this article. So if you tell me I can't say that word, you are also censoring the press. Are you censoring the press now? And then they, backed off a little bit and then tried to censor me a few days later. And we had another tussle over it. But yeah, I was the one that lit the match on that fire.
Good
nice, man. Well, thanks for that. Yeah. Like they say, the people who can change the world are the ones who think they're crazy enough to do it.
Yep. Well, we're out of time, but we wanted to thank you for taking the time to visit with us.
Yes, thank you.
I think you've got a great platform. We're going to be praying for you, and we're gonna be very interested in watching the results of this primary and then on to the general election. So, again, if you have any final words, go ahead. If not, we'll just say sayonara or adios.
Gabe Evans, running for Congress, Colorado's 8th Congressional District. Thanks so much for having me on. Would love to earn your support. Visit my website, electgabeevans.com, elect, GABEEVANS.com to learn more.
Great. We look forward to hopefully seeing you on Saturday.
Hey, Gabe, if you could text me that website real quick, and I'll post it in our show notes. But I wanted to just come on here. We've got a lot of guests in the past, and I could say you've just shown out and you've inspired the heck out of me, man. I agree with everything you've said, but thank God for you. I just wanted to give you a big thanks and honor you for all of your service, and say that we're behind you 100%, praying for you, and you're a mighty man of God. It's been a real honor to have you. So thank you.
I appreciate being on with y'all.
All right. Thanks,
Fantastic
Gabe.
time, man. Nice to meet you.
Have a good
Nice
night.
to meet you all. Thanks so much. You have a good evening.
Take
You
care.
too. Let it
All
never
right.
be said that America doesn't have a reservoir of youthful energy out there ready to burst forth.
I'm so happy to see candidates like Gabe coming up, man. That inspires me. That gives me hope.
Gosh, he's the picture of the American dream. His family, his story, that everybody needs to hear his story. That was just
Yep.
unbelievable.
We'll be bringing it to people as
only
the campaign
in America, man.
continues.
Only
It's
in
so
America.
true.
And the fact that's, I mean, third generation. I've got a descent. I'm descended all the way back from by marriage a few generations back. I have an ancestor who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. And I always tell my wife, whose parents were immigrants from South Korea, I'm like, you're just as American as I am. Like, there's no hierarchy here. And Gabe, his family, his grandfather, that is as American as it gets. So, I mean,
absolutely,
just bless him, his family, and I'd hope every immigrant can hear that story and know that. So, but
let's before we roll out, let's go into that Memorial Day story that Nick has,
Yes,
so
I
we can
advertised it
share
from-
that with our audience. I think it's an inspiring
yeah,
story.
please. Do I need to pull some up here? Or?
If you got that picture of our boy Joe Panteon Martinez, also from Weld County, very awesome for our guest who's also running in that area. And as we've been talking about on the show the whole time, that citizenship is often paid in blood, but so is great honor. And in this case, the Medal of Honor was delivered here to Joe P. Martinez. He was actually born in New Mexico, came up here with his family to Colorado, like so many of us, for its beauty and everything else. But learning the cold and mountains was absolutely necessary for the destiny of his life, because he would be sent to the edge of the world and the edge of America, Attu Island, which is literally as far west as you can get in America. It's actually almost right up next to Russia. And the Japanese during World War II, a lot of people don't know this, but American soil was invaded in World War II in Alaska. The Japanese took over some islands there, and they were very planning to island hop all the way to Anchorage if nobody was going to stop him. Well, Joe P. Martinez and the rest of his boys were sent to stop him. And after a naval battle, which was pretty hectic, actually, you should go read about this campaign, the Aleutian Island campaign. He landed in Attu Island, and it's a mountainous, cold place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It is, I guess, perfect for Coloradans, but for most people there, it was not fun at all. And the Japanese had dug in to these ridges with machine guns and mortars. You can imagine this. Just imagine someplace of a pass in Colorado that you're familiar with, and imagine it's just teeming with mortars and machine guns. That's what our boy Joey Martinez had to face. He was an automatic rifleman, so he had a BAR, was called. Big rifle. And his regiment was pinned down by those machine guns and the mortars. And like we talked about on the show with Gabe, it really takes somebody to stand up first and take that fire, take that risk upon themselves to start the movement, start the advance. Well, that's what Joe did with his BAR. He took out five Japanese machine gun nests, kept urging his boys forward. And on that last machine gun nest, he unfortunately paid the ultimate sacrifice. But his men were behind him, and within 3 or 4 days of Joe P. Martinez's actions, the Battle of Attu Island was brought to a close. So much like all of the fighters of World War II, Joseph Martinez was a hero, but he was a hero worthy of the Medal of Honor. And he is actually the sole recipient of that honor from Weld County, the first Coloradan to receive the Medal of Honor during World War II, and the first Hispanic to do so as well. Wow. So, and from Colorado. So just an amazing life, an amazing destiny. He was 22 years old, and his date of action and when he passed away was May 26th, so the day before Memorial Day, and we visited Memorial Park and the Air Force Academy this last weekend. So we got a couple of shorts coming up for that, so look out for that after the show. Go see that after the show, and keep following us. If you liked the interview with Gabe, we have a lot of interviews like that. We have Lauren Boebert and many other, not just Congress people, but many other people. And you should go check it out on our website, Hispanic Patriot Podcast.
Yeah, we're going to be having Adriana Cuba on.
Yes.
She's candidate for state senate out of El Paso County, so we're looking forward to having her. She was ill last week, so hopefully in the next week or two we'll be able to feature her. Great candidate, young lady from Ecuador, and she's a fighter. She's going to be a real firecracker if she gets into that Senate. So we're hoping that she succeeds in that. So the thing that I wanted to leave everyone with tonight is the distinction between Veterans Day, Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day, because there's a lot of confusion in the public. So I just want to clarify it. So Armed Forces Day is the day that we honor all our currently serving military, all the active military is for Armed Forces Day. Memorial Day is where we honor those who paid the ultimate price, gave their life for this country, and we remember them very fondly and proudly every year. And then Veterans Day is for veterans who have previously served and throughout the entire history of our nation. So that's the distinction. So I just wanted to clarify that because a lot of people are confused about the three, and that's really the way that it goes. So we want to make sure that people are aware of the difference between the 3 days. It's unfortunate, that we have month-long celebrations for certain groups that will remain unnamed, but we only give 3 days out of the year to those who keep our nation free and have kept our nation free. I think that's a travesty.
So, but Hugo, we at the Hispanic Patriot are making up for that a little bit, because with our new military content, we're going to have a month of rollouts of new content starring me and later Hugo to honor our military. I've been calling it Military Month because I agree with you, Hugo. We should have a month for our armed forces. We should have a month for our people, because especially, hey, the world's getting more dangerous every day. We see it on the news. Every day, we seem like we have a new adversary trying to mess with us. And it's only by people in our military that we keep them at bay. So we're going to be honoring them past, present, and future here at the Hispanic Patriot, not just now, but for many years to come.
Yeah, I had this interesting encounter with this guy on X the other day.
Oh.
And he posted something and about MAGA, and he was saying how everybody on the right should stop using the word patriot because we are the farthest thing from a patriot. And
yeah, he could look at this shirt.
I was just shaking my head. I couldn't believe this guy, and he was trying to, and he went on to say, and he had this meme on there about how the Democrats are the real patriots and how they're protecting this land from tyranny and fascists, and and that if you vote for Donald Trump, you're not a patriot.
Well, we at the Hispanic Patriot, like Gabe said, si se puede. Yes, we can be patriots. How about that? How would you like that?
Yeah.
We have to understand patriot comes from our revolution. That was what the people who called themselves, who wanted freedom, were called. And we carry on that tradition today. We remember that to have this country, we paid for it in blood.
Yep. And I told him in closing, I said, back in the revolutionary days, you would have been a Tory.
How ironic, you know what I mean?
Have you read the Declaration of Independence?
Have I?
No, not you. The gentleman who posted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, have you read the Constitution? Have you?
Yeah, no,
Well,
they
I
don't.
think
I
we
mean,
need.
anything that any of our forefathers wrote, like
Well, we had-
Jefferson's letters. I don't understand how you get those crossed. Like when you're looking at the government, the powers that be right now, it's anything but. So.
Yeah.
Well, Hugo, I like what you said, is that we have a lot of holidays in this country that we've forgotten about. You know, we have Flag Day, President's Day, and we at the Hispanic Patriot will be helping you celebrate all of them. So stay tuned for us for many months and many years to come. We're bringing you American freedom, American patriotism now and forever.
Absolutely. So in closing, I just want to say, pray for President Trump and his family. Let's uphold him in prayer and pray for a good result. So it looks like if things go the way they're going, we may have a result by Friday. Maybe beyond that, but I seriously doubt it.
I hope we get our results, because
after they put the jury through a 5-hour closing argument from the prosecution, and people that were there that reported on watching the jury, they were like, their eyes were glazed over, and the average attention span of a human being is like 20 minutes, and they held them there for 5 hours, and of course the defense did 3 hours, so that's a total of 8 hours of closing arguments that they had to sit through. And then they had to sit through another 2 hours of idiotic jury instructions from that corrupt judge.
Oh my goodness! I think prisoners at Guantanamo are saying, "Don't send me to New York, man." Like, like I said, we will be monitoring this case, because it really is the kind of thing that Gabe and other people like him were fighting to prevent. Judicial tyranny, any kind of tyranny come into our country. That is a disservice to our service members. So especially, following this Memorial Day weekend, we want to say thank you to all of those Americans who are standing on guard in heaven, who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So after this Memorial Day, we honor all of those folks and all of their descendants, all of their family, and we give our prayers and many, many thanks to all of them, because I want you all to remember, you got angels looking after them. Some are Army, some are Navy, some are Marines, some are Coast Guard, some are Air Force, but they're all equal in death, and they all love you very much for just being
like it says, USA.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're out of time, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We'll be posting this interview on all our social media. And thank you again for tuning in tonight. And hopefully you'll start learning more about the Hispanic Patriot, because we're going places.
Absolutely. So make sure to click like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. And we'll be very happy to see you all again.
All right. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless you all. Take care. Until next time.